What is going on? It's your man Cleveland Terry, and today we're going to be reviewing the Numark NS4FX, the one that was released, well, depending on what country you live in. It might have been last month, could have been this month, but strange release dates. Never mind that. We're here to talk about the NS4FX and if it's something that you should be interested in. Let's take a look. So right off the bat, I'm going to say this is a very nice sub $600 controller. Now, I believe the price is set for about $549 in the States. I can't speak for international, but you can pretty much do the math to kind of figure out what it is. So we have this sub $600 controller, which I think is done very, very well. If you've looked at any of the Mix Track Pros or Mix Track Platinums that I've reviewed previously, a lot of the things on there are found on here. So not a lot has really changed, but they have added some things that might make it a little more worthwhile for you. Right off the bat, you'll notice that we do have the Mix Track, I believe it's the Platinum jog wheels with the screens, with the BPM counter and the timer and displaying which deck that you can have operating. It's a very good visual play. It's got your marker to tell you how far in the song you are. It's got your actual time that has elapsed. It's got your BPM and then your pitch speed adjust to tell you how much you've gone upwards. So if you can see here, we've gone up to 8%, but you can obviously change that just by holding down shift and the pitch, and then you can get up to 16 plus 50, and that should be it. I will talk about a couple of things that we already know about. The jogs, very nice jogs, just like the Mix Track or the Mixstream Pro. Same type of feel to them. They're nice and sturdy. There's not a lot of give. They feel good in the hands, and they are what you'd expect, and probably a little bit more than you'd expect at this price point. Again, you have 4 decks, so you are going to have a layer button, and this layer button here will switch to the 4th deck and back to the other one. Every channel does have its own fader, which is very important if you're dealing with 4 decks, and they have their own 3-band EQ. We will get back to this section right here. Let's talk a little bit about the actual mixer. Now, I'm actually very impressed by the mixer. The mixer itself has a lot of great features. So let's turn this song on. And you have full kill on all the 3 bands. So if we take everything off, completely kill, which is something you don't typically see on a product at this price point, but there is full kill. On the filter, you get full kill this way, but you don't get full kill on the low end. You still have some of that bass rumbling coming through there, but full kill on the high, which I really, really do like. It drives me nuts when there isn't a full kill on the filter knob. So I do like that. Nice large filter knob, so it's easy to find, especially if it's in the dark, because there isn't so much light on this as some would hope. So you do need to have some of those familiar points so you can kind of get to them without really looking at them. The faders are fine for the price point. There's definitely some resistance in the up fader, and it's something you kind of get used to at a price point like this, but they are smooth and there's not a lot of flex to them, which I do like. Crossfader, on the other hand, definitely has a lot more give to it. It's loud, as you can hear, very, very loud, and it works. Traveling down to the center console, you do have your giant browse knob, and then your load buttons left and right, and then your effects. Now, let's talk about the effects, because the effects are, of course, Serato effects. There's nothing you can do about that. Typically at this price point, that's what you get. However, they did do something that I kind of like, and that is, even though you are stuck using Serato effects, it takes the major effects that are I guess the most popular ones that are used, and then it applies a MIDI mapping to it. So when you're playing this, if I go to high pass filter, even if I don't have these set as my default in the system, it will switch to the high pass filter. So it kind of gives you the feeling that they're external effects even when they're not. You know how they sound. They sound the way they sound. They're fine. They do the job. High pass filter. High pass filter. Nothing out of the ordinary. The paddles are good. They feel good. They have a nice click. They have a nice spring to them. Something that in music is, I think, figured out. Most of their panels feel really, really good. So, these feel very good also. Okay. Along with your 4 decks here, you do have your Q gain and your Q mix in order to switch over to program or Q, and then the volume control here. You do have split Q, although it is software based. You can get it right in the Serato DJ Lite or Serato DJ Pro. And we'll talk about that in a minute too, because I think that's kind of important to know. On the front panel, you do have your switchable decks, so you can decide which side the crossfader is going to apply itself to. So you can say, I want to apply this track to the left crossfader or to the right crossfader, or I want to keep it open. So it's crossfader agnostic, and then you can just control the up faders from here. And then also on the front side, you do have your headphone jack, 1/4 inch and mini jack, and a secondary mic too. On the output side, on the back side of it, you do have your power, your USB-B, and then your left and right outputs. They are XLR based, which thank you very much. But then your booth, RCA out. And then moving over to the far side, you do have your secondary mic, which in reality, it's the first mic. And then you have your auxiliary, your RCA auxiliaries. Now, this doubles, the RCA and the microphone double as basically 2 channels. So you have a switchable line up top. You can switch it to mic, you can switch it to line, and then essentially you have now 5 decks and a microphone if you need one on the front. So a lot of options here. All right, moving over to the decks themselves. We already talked about the decks. We know they're good. You do have your main output and then your booth monitor right here. And following down, you have your standard stuff, your shift, your sync, your cue, your play, your cue pad, your auto loop pad, your fader cuts, and your sample. And then on the secondary pads, you have the stutter, and then you have some navigation pads here. Now, the reason why I bring these up is because this is a Serato DJ Lite controller. Now, it can use Serato DJ Pro, but it is a, by default, Serato DJ Lite. So, because it's light, you are being limited on a couple of things, but some things are here that weren't here prior to the last couple of months. You have everything that's on the top layer here, but on the bottom layer, this is reserved for the Serato DJ Pro. However, on the Scratch Bank, you do have access to that. They have now added Scratch Bank to Serato DJ Lite. What they've done is they've limited it to the top 4 buttons, which you can get a lot done with the top 4 buttons. So again, by holding Shift and pressing the sample button, you have access to your sounds. Cleveland rocks! Man, I'm so Cleveland. Just like that. You move over to the sampler. We're back at the sampler. I don't think I have any samples here. Oh, I don't have samples here. This is the samples that come default in Serato DJ Lite, and they're actually pretty good. I don't typically use Serato DJ Lite, so this is kind of a new thing for me, but you have your unnecessary horn. You've got that one. I do like the bass drop. I like the bass drop a lot. And then, which one is this one? Oh, and then a sweep up. Very, very cool features, the most popular one, so I appreciate that. So if you do buy Serato DJ Pro, the full license, not the copy that you get with like another piece of hardware that comes with the equipment, but actually buy the license, it will give you access to the top 4 and the bottom 4. So some of these navigations in the stutter disappear. You can no longer use them once you move up to Pro. But then you get pitch play, you get more scratch bank, more slicer, and you get the loop roll. Now, one of the questions that I know people have asked, so I just want to answer this right now. If you use Serato DJ Pro, but it is like attached to another piece of hardware, like a Rain 70 or S11, and you bought the Numark NS4FX as a backup, you would not be able to plug this in and just use it unless you bought a actual copy, a license for Serato DJ Pro. It won't work. You'll have to then boot up Serato DJ Lite and then run it from there. So just keep that in mind. I think it's just better off if you can just buy the software. Buy it. It's a one-time buy. You don't have to think about it after that. And then you can use any hardware on the planet. So that's what I would suggest, but I get it. Your mileage may vary. You do whatever you feel is necessary. As you've noticed or have not noticed, these are not RGB buttons. They are just plain white and they work just fine. But, you know, it's one of those things that it's nice to be able to have RGB buttons, especially if you're using other hardware and you move back and forth. But again, at the price point, apparently it's a thing. So we're going to move on. Now, Let's talk about the two most important things because, like I said before, if you've used any of the mix tracks, any of the mixed streams, any of those, it's going to feel relatively the same. But I do want to talk about sound quality. And the sound quality is good. It's not the most amazing sound quality. It's definitely a good board. As I plugged it in between my Range 70 and here, there was a noticeable difference between the frequency response of this one versus that one. But again, Range 70, almost 3 times as much. So there is a big difference there. The one thing I will say about my particular copy of this board, I'm not speaking for every board. I will have to take a listen to other ones. But the one thing I noticed was, first off, it has 1/4 inch inputs for the microphone. I would have preferred to have an XLR, but neither here nor there. It does happen. We can work through it. So I grabbed a XLR to 1/4 inch jack to be able to run this microphone. And this is where I found my first problem. So let me put my headphones on so I can just hear what's going on here. This is just a standard pile microphone, just like a SM58, nothing special about it. I ran this microphone on both my Range 70, my Tascam Mixcam 4, and the Numark. And I'm going to show you the difference here. So here is the microphone when I activate it. 2, 2, 2, 1, check, 1, 2, check, 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 2. So as you can hear, I'm going to pull back a little bit, but there's a distortion on this microphone. Now, obviously, if I turn it up, it gets even louder, but if I pull back, it's a little better. Let me put it on the front. 2, 2, 2, check, 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 2, 2. All right, now this is the other side, and I'm going to pull it back just so it doesn't distort too much. And well, like I said, there's some distortion on here, and I can work the tone to try to get it a little better, move out some of that low end, and it gets better, but it's still there. Now, the reason why I say this is because I'm going to plug it into the mix track so you can hear that one also. 2, 2, 2. All right, so this is going into the mix track. Obviously, it's going to be a little louder because, well, I'm pushing this one a little louder, but you can hear the difference between it. I don't know if it's my copy or not, but that is the one thing that is definitely a little bit of an issue for me. There is no switchable line. I can't drop it down decibels. You only have the pot for minimum and maximum. There's no way to adjust if it's getting too much power into the board. Let me know in the chat if you guys have one and if you've experienced the same thing that I have. But a lot of people at this price point, a lot of people don't even use the microphones in the boards. They go directly into a mixer. So maybe that could alleviate the issue. But that's the one weakness in my book. Besides that, the board's good. And you can get these boards. I think they're selling exclusively at Guitar Center. If you're in the States. If you're in the States, $549 at Guitar Center, and you can pick one up. As a matter of fact, I was in Guitar Center in San Jose Saturday, and I was buying something. I look up, and sure enough, they had like 6 boxes of these. So this is the exclusive place. As far as internationally, your mileage may vary. You have to figure out what works for you, where they're selling at. As a backup controller / entry-level controller for somebody trying to get into DJing, this is a great board. I do like the 4 channels, and you do have options like using the LC 6000s in order to have 4 decks. You can use those. I had it in my last video. So there's a lot of options for this. You don't have to kind of stop here. You can expand from here. All right, guys, if you found what I said here useful, hit that like button. If you found what I said here really useful, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow me on the Instagrams and the Twitters. Get on my Discord because that's where we're talking about all things Cleveland Terry. Guys, girls, always a pleasure. If I don't talk to you later, we'll talk soon. Peace.